Charles Darwin published his theories of evolution and natural selection in two separate works, including The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, or The Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life, in 1859, and The Descent of Man in 1871. He promoted the idea of survival of the fittest when he asserted that organisms adapt to their environments, maintaining advantageous characteristics and purging less advantageous or debilitating characteristics. Those blessed with beneficial features thrive, while those without die off. Though Darwin's models were intended for and best applied to biology, many social theorists, including Ernst H. Haeckel, Thomas H. Huxley, and Nicholas Danilevsky, among others, used the ideas of evolution and natural selection as foundations and support for their own hypotheses. The free market ideology of social Darwinism transposed Darwin's ideas onto social human history. Advocates proposed that as the social environment changes and evolves, those who are equipped intellectually and financially and are willing to adapt by changing themselves are the ones who will thrive. In reality, social Darwinism has little in common with Darwin's theories, which have been misapplied to social philosophy based on logical fallacy. Social Darwinism makes the faulty assumption that what is natural is also moral. In other words, it assumes that because a behavior takes place in nature, it is a moral paradigm for humans to follow. This is a clear example of the naturalistic fallacy of trying to derive an ought statement from an if statement. So if it happens in nature, it ought to occur in society as well. Extreme social Darwinists tend to make this assumption easily, though it is commonly accepted in philosophy that this type of derivation is impossible. One advocate, Herbert Spencer, was considered the father of the ethical theory of social Darwinism. Before Darwin's theory of evolution was published, Spencer was already publicizing his elitist view that might makes right. He adapted Darwin's ideas to his own ethical theories, as he claimed that the rich and powerful elite were better fit to adapt to the changing social and economic climate. He also used the concept of natural selection to support his assertion that it is natural, expected, and proper for the strong to prosper at the expense of the weak, because human behavior is justified by what occurs regularly in nature. Just as predators survived on the domination and consumption of their prey, the socially fit must realize their potential without regard for the feeble and frail. In fact, Spencer ardently believed that it was morally correct for the strong to excel, which inspired many extremists to argue that helping those weaker than oneself was morally wrong because it promoted the survival and potential perpetuation of the fundamentally unfit. Social Darwinism has been cited as justification for many societal atrocities throughout history. The ideology was used in a moral foundation for colonialism, as native peoples were viewed as weaker than more developed nations and therefore unfit to survive. So the seizing of land and resources, as well as other oppressive tactics, was considered ethical. Many military actions have founded their principles on social Darwinism as well. This is evident in the belief that the strongest forces will prevail because they are the most socially fit, and that any human or financial casualties on the losing side are considered a natural byproduct due to their unfit status. The philosophy has also been used to justify eugenics programs aimed at weeding out undesirables from populations all over the world. The most widely recognized example is Nazi Germany and Hitler's determination to cleanse the Aryan race of unwanted traits by eliminating the people who carry them from the chain of heredity. A less vividly remembered and earlier case is that of the American eugenic movement, which ranged from approximately 1880s to into the 1960s. Class status and mobility was considered an accurate measure of social fitness, which perpetuated already existing racial voids. These beliefs prompted several governmental actions. For instance, in 1924, Congress passed a law restricting immigration from areas deemed unfit, and between 1907 and 1963, 24 states passed compulsory sterilization laws affecting members of the population who were institutionalized or otherwise considered unfit. This included men with criminally aggressive histories and women who were considered to be overly sexualized. Exploitative forms of capitalism referred to social Darwinism as a just bias for grossly underpaying hard laborers and for avoiding the acknowledgement and legitimization of labor unions. Though extremists have used social Darwinism as a platform for their own elitist agendas, many less radical supporters have put it to use in more socially productive ways. While they discourage wanton handouts to the poor, they do advocate choosing specific, deserving recipients of help and support. Capitalist Andrew Carnegie, for instance, combined moderate social Darwinist ideals with philanthropic practice, when he used his fortune to establish numerous public institutions, including a university and several libraries. They were to be used by anyone who chose to avail themselves of those resources. He believed that this would provide assistance and means to those who were willing to seek them out and work to benefit from the services they offered. Still, he strongly opposed direct and indiscriminate handouts to the poor because that practice tends to favor the deserving and the undeserving equally. It should be no surprise that the ideas encompassed by social Darwinism have also found a home in education. There has been a long history of tracking certain populations toward vocational trade programs and others toward college preparation based on race, language proficiency, and academic scores. In recent years, charter schools have been accused of being the latest incarnation of the philosophy applied to current educational policy. Many critics refer to 2002's No Child Left Behind Act as an effort to pave the way for charter schools and voucher programs. It raised the expectations for student success and consequently the national standards for public schools and districts in a supposedly deliberate effort to make them fail. In addition, it has been noted that though the attainment goals were raised, the funding gaps between richer and poorer schools were not addressed, increasing the chances of failure for some more than others. These are but a few of the ways that social Darwinism has permeated the field of education along with other facets of society. Though its value is often dubious, it remains a contentious presence in our everyday lives.